Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your time. Today, we are going to be talking about the first of our 4 webinar series for USGA Tournament Management. Today, we will be talking about the Customer Center, how to most effectively use it as far as seasons, categories, some master roster things, and the new course import function, which is new as of 2020, at the end of 2020. So, the point of most of these webinars that we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks is trying to take your USGA TM experience to the next level, to try to, now that we're several years into the agreement, trying to get more out of it than simply running events. There's so many features out there that you can help foster a more competitive environment at your club or facility. So we hope this is a good way to start. So if anyone cannot hear me or see my screen, please send in a chat to the software here. Also, we will be stopping 4 times or more for questions between myself and Mario Mackey, who will also be presenting. Whoever is not presenting will be monitoring the questions, so we'll try to stop and pause to answer those questions as we go. So it looks like no one is having any issues seeing or hearing, so we'll start going. So what I've got up on my page right now is our GAP has a test account. So this, to emphasize, this is in USGA Tournament Management Club product. So it is not the premium version. So those of you on the call that are premium version, yours might look a little different in some spots, but wanted to go with the most basic version of the product and just show the functionality there. So what we have here is how all our events are organized. So again, this is a test account, so there's a lot of test events in here. But what we have is we've got 6 different categories here to segment our events. And then we also have seasons on top of that to segment our events by season. So this is a good way to break down your events, because over time, for a user that might be using this product for the next 10, 20 years, to have a different category for each season, you could end up having 25 categories and it'd be a lot of scrolling, disorganization on the homepage. So we're trying to clean up this homepage as much as possible. Just to take a look at an example of a club that doesn't use either seasons or directories, and just how it would look compared to what we are at now. We'll go to another facility. So what they have is they just have their one folder, which is events and leagues. And then whenever they have an event or league that's out of season, they'll just archive it. So there's 242 archived events here. Just versus 1 that's active. And there's no way you can break this down. If you're trying to search for something, yeah, you can search in the search bar. But if you're just scrolling, there's a lot of events to search through. Then we'll contrast that to what we have here in our test account, where we have 6 different categories. And this is something that really can be applied to any facility. So just some examples here. We had junior events, outings, some seminar demos that we use for GAP, test events. Always encourage clubs to use test events just to try to run some things and make sure that they're not running into anything unexpected on actual day. And then for any USGA TM user, the events and leagues is a default category that can't be removed. So you can edit it and change the color, but the name has to stay the same. For premium, you can change the name for that. So we have these different events, and then so we'll see here that over the 6 events, there's about 100 different events in there, which encompasses all seasons. So if we wanted to drill down into a specific season, such as 2021, we can do that. And now we're just working with those events that are on our schedule for 2021. So again, it's much more manageable. Instead of going to all seasons, where we have 68 leagues and events, you click on that, you're looking for something. It might take you a little bit longer to scroll, but if you go to 2021, the current season, you just have the 3 events that we're working with this year. So how to create a category is you would go into the events and leagues option and click on Ggid, or sorry, add a new category. You can name the category whichever you'd like. So we'll call this one women's events. And then you can add a color, which doesn't really do too much, to be honest. It just comes on the side, on the left side, in the organization on the homepage. So we just say women events. We would now have that new category there. So you can add as many categories as you'd like. Again, for the sake of space, would definitely not recommend adding maybe more than 10 categories, depending on what your club does. A lot of times it's pretty easy to segment in between 3 and 7 categories, so it's a pretty manageable screen here. Any questions so far on categories? Doesn't look like anything came through yet. The big benefit of categories, and something that we'll touch on later, is it ties into directories. And directories is a way to list all of the events on one page for members to view. And if those events are located in a category together, that directory automatically uploads if you remove or add events to that directory, events or leagues. So again, we'll show that in a second and show where it's important. Obviously, it's nice to have things organized, but that's just more for optics than anything else. The functional use is with the directories, which again, we'll showcase later on. So with seasons, that's the other way to break it down, where again, we went from, if we had 68 events and leagues, if we break it down by season and we go into the current one, that goes all the way to 3. So if you look at our events and leagues and we go back to all, each of these events has a season that's attached to it in green here. A lot of things in 2017 and 18. Again, easy to break down there. So how you create a season is in the season management tab in the top right-hand corner of the customer center. If we go to seasons, we would always recommend just to do the season being the calendar year. Theoretically, you can make a season any defined period of time that you want, but especially in the Northeast here, we see almost no benefit in doing anything other than just a calendar year. So to do that, you would click on add season. Let's say we were doing it for next year. We'd make it 2022, and then you could set it as the current season if you'd like. It's nice if you set it as the current season, because then any new event that you create automatically goes in there. So we're not going to do that just because that'll be done next year. So we did that earlier with 2021, made it the current season, and we can see all our previous seasons here in the background. So we go back to our customer center. For those of you that haven't used seasons yet, the one downside, which isn't really much of a downside, just a little bit of time early on, is there's no mass way to assign events of the past to different seasons. So if we go for a club that hasn't done anything with seasons yet, if they were to switch to filter from all to no season, there would be no change in the numbers here, since every event would not have a season from the past. Ours will be a little less than that, because most of them have a season. You know, we only have 2 events with no seasons. So what you'd have to do is go into every event or every category that has events with no season. I've got this course rating import test, which is actually something we did last year, as evidenced by the date. And then this actions menu, you can go to change the category or change the season. So you can change either one. So if you don't have categories and everything was in events and leagues, you would have to change a category to get everything in the right spot. And this is actually a pretty good example too, because this was definitely not an outing, it was a test. So I can change the category from outings to test events. And then I'll put it in the test events, and then I can change the season on it to 2020. Same thing with the stroke index allocation. It was also in 2020 as a test. So I'll change the season to 2020. So as you can imagine, this will be nice over the years. Let's say you have a member guest that you run every year, and you have that in your women's events or men's event or wherever it stands. You can then easily find historical results. So if we go to all seasons, and let's say, for example, at this test club, we do something at Honeybrook every year. Now in outings, we can look at Honeybrook. We can easily find, if we wanted to see, hey, the last time we ran this was in 2019, we can easily see the date. We can go into the event, see who was registered, and then maybe cross-reference that with this year's roster to see, hey, this group came the last 2 years, but they're not here this year. Maybe we should reach out to them. So little things like that that can help you get the most out of your functionality and be efficient when using the product. So again, that's seasons and categories. So for those of you, so if we go back to our example earlier with Broad Run, they don't have any categories or seasons. So what we would recommend is going into events and leagues, click on add new category, and then add all the categories you'd want to add. So outings, boom, they have outings. Do that for all types of categories you want. Again, 3 to 7 is typically a good sweet spot, but you can always reach out to us for any recommendations. And then for season management, you go into seasons, might start with 2015 or 2017 when they first started using the product. And go to 2018, add all the seasons that you would need to. And then go back to the customer center. And then you can start going through old events and putting them in their respective categories. So for Thursday Night League, that's obviously in events and leagues. So you go to change category, put it in events and leagues, and then change season. This one is 2020. So we didn't have 2020 yet, but for sake of example, 2018, and you do that for all the archived events. So again, might take a little bit of time, but especially now with the off season, before things start getting rolling, shouldn't be more than an hour or a couple to do that. Much better to do it now and be in a good space with organization. It'll definitely help you save that time down the road when you're in the heat of the season and things are picking up. So that is how categories and seasons look. Do we have any questions so far? We'll pause for a second. Easy crowd today. Got Tom O'Malley on the call. No questions yet. That's surprising. Just kidding, Tom. So that's again, seasons and categories. Again, if you have any questions with how it applies to your club specifically, reach out to us, and that's a good time. Also, for any type of Golf Genius or USGA tournament management training, you can always visit. We set up this year a time to schedule training sessions. It helps to kind of get something on the schedule for each of us. So that website is calendly.com and then /GapGin. We can communicate that after the call too, but you can sign up for a time. If you click on 30-minute training session, you can view the schedule and what days are available, etc. So that was seasons and categories. We'll now go into where you can really use those, and it's in directories. So directories is where you can list all events and leagues on a single page. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for members where they can view portals and things like that. So to get into directories, we go into this event and league directories, click on directories of events and leagues. You can have as many directories as you'd like. So we've already got an outing directory in here and a sample one. I'll add a new one from scratch. So we'll call this one 2021 event schedule. And after you name it, you can then go in and do the settings. So again, here's the name here. The directory Ggid, you can customize that because what it ends up being is it ends up being part of a URL. So it'll be golfgenius.com/Ggid/ whatever the directory Ggid is. So just to show this, it'll be test ES for event schedule 2021. And then optional description comes up at the top of the page for the directory. So I'll just put test, 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 just to show where it would come up on the page. Then some options here, you can hide the number of golfers registered in each event. We typically wouldn't want to do that just to show how many players are in there. And then the important thing here is which events and leagues you want to display on that directory. So it's possible that you can manually pull these events and choose which one specifically you want on there, but I would always advise against that because the issue there is if you would always have to go in and update it manually if you add new events to the schedule or anything like that. If you click on the second option, which again emphasizes the importance of making categories, you can pull from a specific category. So we're going to choose events, leagues, and trips. And that'll just pull anything from the current season, which is 2021, from that directory or from that category into a directory. So if we add events into that category later on, it'll automatically pull onto the directory. If we delete an event because maybe it got rescheduled or canceled, it would automatically do that. So we wouldn't have to go in and edit it. It's just kind of everything flows in together. Then there's some, you can do a default, you can do a condensed or detailed. We'll do detailed just to show some more information. And then finally, show courses information. This would be most, I know Stonewall's on the call. This would be better for someone like them than a facility and good for Buck Hill, who has 3 9-hole routings. more so than a facility like Pinecrest, who only has the 18-hole facility. You wouldn't always want to show the course information if you're a course like Pinecrest, just because it's the same course every time. And obviously, you know, if you're playing in an event, it's at that course. But if you're Stonewall and you have North and Old events, it'd be beneficial to show that information. So we'll save that for now, and then go back into that 2020 event schedule. The other tab at the top is the Share tab. So again, you can actually choose which season you want displayed. So that's where seasons come into display or into effect. So I know when we mentioned our events, leagues, and trips menu on the Customer Center, it had 66, I think, events. If we just choose the current season, then it would just show the ones for 2021, which I think were 3. And then it's got the link. So this is the link that you could send out to your members. Again, it automatically updates throughout the year. So you theoretically just have to send it out once. And the members can use that throughout the entire year. It's something you can embed on your website. So it's nice because once you set it up, not a lot of maintenance. So we'll copy it, and then I'll go over to a new tab or a new browser, just so I'm not signing out or anything like that. And just copy and paste that Ggid. So you can customize here the background image. We use Pebble Beach #7. You can customize the banner at the top here. But then we have our directory, which again, here's the test information, or the messaging that you could have at the top. We just put test, 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 but you could put whatever you'd like in there. And then it's got, again, all those events that are in 2021 and in the events, leagues, and trip menu. So there were just 3 of those. But the nice thing is here too, that, for example, this 2021 Winter Championship, that is an event that's already been completed. So without doing anything extra, a player can then navigate over to the portal for that event. And again, with the portal, which like to plug next Tuesday, we'll be talking about portals. So we can talk about how we made the banner different here, background image different. It doesn't have to match what the directory is. And again, that's next Tuesday, same time, 3/16, the date. And then you can see the results, which had to plug this just because Dan and myself from the office with a comfortable 7-stroke victory. But you've got the skins and everything like that. Tee sheets, course statistics, you can have everything from there. And again, it's not, once that event is complete, you don't have to do anything extra to get it out to update on the directory. It's just automatically going to pull whatever the most recent portal is from that event and do it there. And then so we go back to the directory, and it's got the same thing would apply to the other things like season-long match play. Again, the one thing that I selected is to display the course information that shows the course here. Again, these are all the same course, so theoretically it wouldn't make sense for us to have the course there, so we should have unchecked that. But again, just to show the ease of this, we go back to our Customer Center. And let's say one of those outings we had should have really been in the events and leagues. So we go into our outings 2021. This Gap Golf outing actually should have been an event and league. We can change the category, put it in our events and leagues. And then if we go back to our directory, again, just because we moved it into that category with the correct season, we refresh the directory, which the player would be doing if they were to go into that at a new time. We now have the, which one was it? 2021 Gap Golf outing in that directory. Again, and if you're a premium club, you can have this gray box would show registration status. So if you were open for registration or when it would open, it would have that information there. So you could also have members registered directly through here. So again, a lot of functionality. And it's nice just to have everything on a one-stop shop for your schedule, so players can come here, they can view events that happened in the past, and they can even go further and say, hey, didn't know the 666 opener was on April 2nd, maybe I want to sign up for that. So again, in this 20 minutes here, we didn't talk at all about getting into an event or anything like that, just kind of organization of it and how you can get the most out of it and kind of promote that to your membership. And I think the clubs that are using this, there's a handful of them out there using it, are all doing a really good job in getting the most out of it on that front. So as far as directories, that's all I've got. Again, getting off pretty easy here with the questions. Anything come through, Mario?
No, just Tom saying that you were presenting so well he couldn't think of any questions. So we'll see if that continues through my presentation here.
Wow. So yeah, again, appreciate it, and pass it over to Mario to go on with some other functionality of the customer center.
All right, thank you, Steve. I've got my screen up here, so please, if you cannot see the screen or you can't hear me, please let us know, again, using that chat function or the questions function there. But I know Steve talked about the directories, the categories, and the seasons, and now we're going to talk about a few other key parts of the customer center. One thing I also want to point out is I know a few of you on this call may not have been active users of this program yet, so if you see this stuff and you're interested in using it for your club, please reach out to Steve or myself. You can actually email handicapping@gapgolf.org, which will hit both of us, and let us know, and we can get your account activated so you can start using this, because this is included at this club version with every Gin Club account through Gap. So now we're going to talk about some other options for users within that customer center. You know, one thing that was popular with the old TPP software and has proven to be popular here in USGA TM by Golf Genius as well, is the ability to set default tees per player or even per gender. So let's look at that process. Once again, here I've got Broad Run Golfers Club as my example, similar to what Steve had. They've done this successfully, so I want to show you an example of how this works. But if you go to the master roster, and then you go to the Manage Player Default Tees option here, just under the master roster link, you'll see a club roster. That roster can be sorted by any of these columns. You can sort by the handle, which is the name, the gender, the handicap index, age, whatever categories you want to, you can sort by any of those. And then you can simply click the box next to the golfer's name right here, or you could even select multiple golfers if you like. And then there's this box on the right side, Set Default Tee. So you can click on this Set Default Tee option, and it pops up a little box here where you can click to set the default tee. We've got two courses in here, but for this sake, we'll look at Broad Run Golfers Club. We can leave it unchanged because it's been set already. We can set it to the gender default tee, which we'll talk about shortly. Or then you can go to any of these colors, which are the tee sets we've got uploaded here for Broad Run. And you know, this is a nice process because when you add a golfer to your roster for an event that is set to that course, they'll automatically be assigned to that default tee set on the pairing sheet. You can obviously change it there later in the event if necessary, but it's a nice feature when you have groups of golfers, for example, some senior players who always play a specific tee set in your club events. You can set that ahead of time, and you can also, again, go back and look at it here to see what has already been set. So I don't see any questions right now immediately about that, but if you have any questions, feel free to submit them in the chat there. I'm going to move on here and talk about the default tee by gender, because I just referenced that too. We saw that as an option here. Again, if you click that Set Default Tee, one of these options is gender default tee. Well, how do we set that? So the way we do that is we go under this customer settings menu at the top, and you go to your course details. And if you click course details here, again, for Broad Run here, I see that Broad Run Golfers Club that's been set up. And if I click the little down arrow on the right side, I can edit the golf course. So I hit the edit button, the window pops up, I hit edit again, and there's going to be an option right here at the top of the screen, default tee by gender. If I click the default tee by gender, I can go ahead and set this up. You can see there's a male or a female option. The men are set to the lime tee, the female aren't set to anything. I could set this to the red tee and then just hit save at the bottom, and it would save that. So that means if I was back on that previous screen, I could go ahead and set the tee by gender, and it would set the ladies to the red tee as an example. So pretty easy thing for you to do on the club level, and a nice thing that will save you some time when creating your events and pairings, especially if you have golfers who consistently play those same tees over and over again. So any questions about setting default tees within USGA TM?
Nothing coming through yet, Mario.
Okay, well, we're going to move on here. I'm back into our base account here. And what I want to do here is talk about importing the course rating information directly from the World Handicap System database. This is something we talked about a little bit on our webinars last year, but 2020 was the first year of the World Handicap System. And there were some big changes as part of that World Handicap System that apply now to USGA TM and make it very important for you to link your golf course to the World Handicap System database. Again, I'm in our test account here. So if you look at here, we see a list of clubs that we've got set up in our test account. And you see, as an example, Honeybrook Golf Club has this WHS compliant green. That's what we want to have for your courses in USGA TM moving forward. And as the example here, I'm going to look at Jeffersonville. So Jeffersonville doesn't have that USGA or that WHS compliant, which means we added the course manually. That's how the majority of courses would have been added in past years before this functionality became available. You would have added your golf course, typed in the course name, typed in the yardage, par, stroke index for every hole on the golf course for all tee sets. So we can import that from the USGA WHS database now. And let's look at how we do that. Actually, let's talk about why that's important first. So first, scores posted for events using courses that are not linked. That means that that is not used for the playing conditions calculation. PCC, the playing conditions calculation, looks at all the expected scores on the date of play given the golfer's handicap index and the course rating and slope rating of the tee set being played. And if the scores are significantly higher or lower than expected, the differential of all golfers who played that day would be adjusted. But if you have not linked your course and you don't have that green WHS compliant next to your course there, those rounds aren't considered for PCC adjustment. So it affects the handicap index of all golfers at your club. One other thing is, additionally, that WHS connection needs to be made in order for the golfer to edit their hole-by-hole stats after that round has been posted. So let's look at how we would do that. So in this case, I'm going to click the Import from USGA Course Rating Directory button at the top here. You can type in a search here. You can type in any course that has a valid USGA course rating. I'll type in Jeffersonville. We'll find it here. We'll hit Next. It's going to say, do we want to copy course information from existing course? So in this example here, let's say we already set the shotgun priorities or certain other details for Jeffersonville that we want to move over, like you would have done for your own course. So I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to pick Jeffersonville. Now, what do we want to carry over? These are the questions. So we basically are assuming we've done a lot of these things already here. We want to make sure we don't carry over the stroke index, the par, and the yardage. Those three things should come from the WHS database because those are officially from the USGA side, and we want to leave those unchecked, bring over everything else we've got. For example, the master roster default tees we already set, the default tee by gender. You can have your shotgun priority, like I mentioned, pace of play information, anything else. And then we'll archive that old course. We don't need it to show up on there so you have two Jeffersonvilles and confusing you or anything like that. So I'll hit Next. You'll see here, it'll give us the chance to match up the existing tee sets. We had one called green. Okay, we're going to match it with green. Green, white, we didn't have a match. We're going to let it import that on its own. Here's a good one. It says white with the F in parentheses, meaning a female white tee. This is the white men's tee from the course rating database. There's actually no match for that one. Yellow, we've got a match, but for that white ladies tee, I'm going to go ahead and match that up with the one that we created previously. And then you see there's another one here called the Par 3 Challenge that the club created at some point. We don't have a tee set to match for that. We don't have to. All the other ones, it will actually import them as a specific new tee set here, all the information. So I'll click Next. It'll ask me, do I want to copy that additional tee over? You have the option check or uncheck. For this purpose, I'll uncheck that. And I will go ahead and import this. And it's going to go through the process of importing this course from the course rating database. And let's see what the results are like when it's done. We want to see, again, that green WHS compliant, and we'll see what carried over from our previous information. And you can see it's working right now. We got the green check mark, meaning we're good to go. We got that green WHS compliant like we want. But not only we've got that, but if I click up here at the other information, I've still got the pace of play, the shotgun priority, things that I already created. Even those default tees could be put in there if I had them set up. So we've got all this information that we had already done that carried over. In addition, we've got the new stuff put in here that came from the WHS listing. So now if I go back to this course details page, just to show you what that looks like here, now we've got the green WHS compliant next to Jeffersonville as well. We know that those courses are linked. If we post a score from there, it'll be counted for PCC. And then it makes it easier when you have a new rating for the golf course. All you have to do is go update that with this process. You don't have to go and make additional changes. So much easier for you to do moving forward, and it actually is compliant with the World Handicap System, which is obviously the key. So any questions about this process, any of this stuff, whether it's the default tee process or the WHS compliant process with the course rating database?
No questions, but an offer for a break here. If you want to let Tom present, he can take over for you here.
We appreciate that. Well, maybe Tom can take over some of our next couple, which is a good segue here. We do, again, Steve mentioned we've got a few other ones of these coming up. These are, again, important and meant to be short ones, half hour, which is what we're at right now, focusing on key parts of the software. So on Thursday at the same time, 10 a.m., we're going to talk about league play and administering leagues, whether that's a league at your club or you are a type 3 facility that runs a season-long, summer thing where you play every weekend somewhere. League play could be beneficial for you there. Next Tuesday, we're going to talk about creating those web portals like Steve mentioned there. And next Thursday, we're going to talk about the report center and everything that comes into play there. So you can use the same email link that you signed up for these to sign up. The links are inside that email that we sent last week as well as last month. Please check those out and sign up and join us again. We will also be posting a recording of this on the GAP website under the GAP webinars page.